As always, we're back on another episode, another great episode. We're going to be talking about something very important, close to my heart. I spend a lot of time on this social media platform. I just love it. I cannot get enough of it, but also know I'm making lots of mistakes when being on a platform. I'm not, maximizing my efforts there. So today we have a real expert that's coming directly from LinkedIn. Purna Virji, how are you today?
Martinez, I'm great. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, there's so many different things that we can talk about today, and discover, uncover tips, strategies. So obviously, we'll talk about a lot of it today. Can you just tell people your personal journey? I like to start with that because everybody has their own unique journeys. So what's yours like? How did you ended up working with LinkedIn?
Oh my gosh, you're so right. Everyone has their unique journey, especially in digital marketing, because a
Yeah.
few years ago, there was no course. You didn't study to become a digital marketer. So, yeah, I fell into journalism. So I studied journalism. I did my master's in international journalism in the UK at Cardiff University. And then I moved to the US, where I worked in television for 4 years. I had to end up moving over to PR. So I started working in PR and discovered this thing called SEO and then this thing called Google AdWords, as it was called that time. Pitched it to my CEO at the agency. We started offering more of those services. And then I just fell completely in love with digital marketing. More than that, I loved the industry and the people because it was and it still is today where people teach others and help empower and grow others. So that's really been the big consistent theme in my career. And so I learned from amazing folks like the Rand Fishkins and the Will Reynolds and the Brad Gettys of the world. And then I thought I can go honor them by teaching others, right? If somebody sends the elevator down for you, it's your job to send it down for somebody else. And so I would start speaking and I would write for like Search Engine Journal. And then Microsoft reached out to me because they were putting together a brand new team to go out and evangelize the business, go and train customers. And so, literally, just in trying to help others, it's so karmic. I think Microsoft found me. I was like the best decision I ever made. So, I went from the first 10 years of my career working in scale ups and startups to then landing in this like gigantic global corporation. And I love Microsoft. Like, I drink the Kool-Aid, I admit. And then when Microsoft bought LinkedIn, we were like, oh my God, LinkedIn's amazing. You hear all of it. And then I had a great friend who left Microsoft and moved to LinkedIn. And for a year, she was like, Purna, you have to come here. It's amazing. The culture, like I so believed in the mission. And so very long story short, just by good luck and at LinkedIn, we say that relationships matter. And so it really was about forging relationships in digital marketing industry with coworkers, with partners. And here I am. And it's been a little over 3 years now that I've been here.
Wow, that's a very interesting story. And Microsoft reached out to you, which is like, wow, people are listening, like, oh my God, that's lucky. But as I was saying, it's karmic, right? So you've been doing right things, right? There, you have been doing something right. These things just doesn't happen like that. You're not going to be sitting at home doing nothing, not providing any value to the society, and magically somebody will reach out to you and be like, oh, you want a job, right? But for people out there, because I see that right now as a discussion on LinkedIn too. I spend hours and hours a week on LinkedIn, and personally, not because you're on the show today, but really LinkedIn for me, for if you're a business owner getting started, established, LinkedIn is definitely a place to go as far as I see. Of course, there's other platforms and social media that's available, but for that, business conversation and there's people there, rather than other platforms, not really sure who you're talking with, right? If it's a bot, if it's a fake account, whatever that might be. But coming back to the question they want to ask you is regarding your journey, right? You're an award-winning journalist, right? Do you believe, as you talked about the people that influence you and your personal career, can people also be self-taught and find a job, build their marketing career by being self-taught? How do you approach in terms of learning and professional career in marketing?
So the short answer is yes, you can absolutely be self-taught. In fact, so many of the best people are. And if you go look anywhere, you can find an amazing treasure trove of knowledge. Like that's especially true in marketing. Yes, other industries too, but let's say in the marketing space, marketers inherently, I find to be very generous, thoughtful, kind people who, when they learn something, they don't tend to gatekeep. Or very few people would do that. More and more people will be like, I discovered this awesome new thing. Let me share it with the world. And if you do that, so whether you look at LinkedIn Learning, whether you look at YouTube, if you follow certain people on any social media platform, there is infinite content out there to learn. And so what can you do as a person? And this is something that a lot of my mentees ask me. So I'm really big on mentoring. And I'm like, all right, firstly, it feels very overwhelming if you try to think like, oh my gosh, I want to learn everything about marketing, or, I want to get into social media marketing. It's like, let's break it down into chunks, like just chunk it up, give yourself a little sort of learning plan where, let's say, you want to build your brand on LinkedIn more, right? Break it into a crawl, walk, run, right? Step one is almost establish your presence. Like, is your LinkedIn profile, fully filled out? Is it optimized? Have you taken advantage of all the features? Have you turned on creator mode, for example, right? Then have you started, go and see who you admire, like who are the voices that you respect, what do they tend to post, what does your audience that you're targeting try to consume. Like, just follow a very step-by-step approach, so that way every week you can give yourself a mini goal, as aggressive or as slow as your capacity and schedule demands, and you can do it. So I taught myself so much, and one of the things that I love doing is looking at different disciplines and taking from one. Like, very often, Martinez, we'll get a customer to be like, okay, I want to do this, and I'm a FinServ, I'm a financial services company. Like, what are other financial services companies doing well with content marketing? And you're like, why are you only limiting yourself by looking at other finance? It's not the best. Like, sometimes you could learn from a Coca-Cola, you could learn from a Microsoft, anyone, from the smallest startup, etc. So anyway, opportunities are infinite to learn.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So, and that's a very good advice because, and I've been doing that personally myself in the endeavors that I'm involved. Probably started a couple of years back, just looking at the different industries, because I think that's the mistake that, you know, a lot of business owners, especially in the beginning stages that they make, they look at their competitors, who's doing what and whatnot. So if you just go outside of your industry and follow these people on LinkedIn, see what they do, how they approach their strategies, marketing ideas, you can find a lot that you can really kind of copy paste and tweak it in your own way to make it, a successful marketing strategy, right? Um, Again, talking about that, you have a book. I'd like to cover that right now. So regarding the high impact content marketing, right? What does it mean for people? Because we out there, we want to make a high impact content, right? So what does that mean? When have you decided to write a book in the first place? What the high impact content means to you, and how individuals, including myself, can create that high impact?
Well, I'm going to break down your question a little bit. Thank you for asking, and thank you for asking about my book. So how it came about? Well, I have always been an avid reader my whole life, right? I always was, I think my parents instilled in me this learn it all mindset, that you have to always be learning. And the more you learn, the more you realize how much there is to learn. And one of the best ways to learn is to teach, right? There's a saying that says to teach is to learn twice. And one of the best ways I found is to do that. And so I was really lucky. I think I would do a lot of speaking gigs on behalf of Microsoft and then on LinkedIn, where I would, create narratives and represent the company at stages across the world. And I think my publisher had seen me do some of these gigs. And so I was very fortunate where Kogan Page, my publisher, so Stephen Dunnell, changed my life by reaching out to me to be like, hey, I'm Stephen from Kogan Page, senior stuff. Would you be interested in writing a book about content marketing aimed at practitioners? So they literally gave me the topic and the audience. And, this is one of those things that you cannot say no to. Like, you say yes, when amazing opportunities come about. And so, of course, naturally, I went to my leadership at LinkedIn and I'm like, would you be okay if I wrote this book? And they were so supportive and so encouraging. And then, so yeah, then I spent a year like researching, writing, learning so much. I was so excited because that was my favorite thing to do, is to go and learn and get aha moments and share them with others. And so it was just the best year of my life when I was like talking to, 60 to 70 like subject matter experts from all corners of the world, from Peru to Sweden to Australia to India to, all walks of life, all types of companies. It was I think for me, I actually loved it. I felt like I learned 100 times more than I did before, and I get to share it with others. And so for high impact, to answer your next question, it means it's always win-win. It has to be high impact content as content that actually moves the needle for your company and adds value for your audience. So it's always at the intersection of both. And so that way, so often digital marketing, especially even content, is that you sit in the corner, like content, you create blog posts. And we're like, that's not what we do. Or content is always seen as a means to a different end, right? Oh, we'll get the blog for the SEO, or you go create that social media post for this. And we're like, no, content is inherently so powerful and has the power to change behaviors and influence perceptions and break stereotypes. Like if you can take really good content, it's a great equalizer too, right? It's the one thing, like great content is great content. It doesn't matter whether it came from the biggest company in the world or the smallest company. I know it's a very long answer, Martinez, but I'm wondering if I can
No,
give
that's
you
good.
a Hollywood example. Okay, Marvel, and they have these like massive, like billion-dollar movies, right? The Spider-Man, the Batman, like all of the Chris Nolan movies, all of that. Yes, those are big and we know they're going to be hits. But think about a movie like My Big Fat Greek Wedding. So, did you watch that movie?
Uh, I don't know if I
Okay, so
heard
it's
about it, the
several
movie.
years old now. It's about like maybe 20 years old now. But so it was very authentic. It was a very small budget movie, and Rita Wilson, who is Tom Hanks's wife, was the producer of the movie. I
Right.
watched this interview of her on Jay Leno, which is going back so long now. She was saying that they made this movie that they didn't think would really get they would have a very small audience, right? They thought like maybe just the Greek American community would be able to resonate, and it was just made from love, made with heart. But it was such a great story, and so much heart was put in that movie that it ended up resonating with everybody. Like I'm Indian, and I'm like, oh my God, I have an aunt who's just like that. Or like, oh my gosh, my dad has said exactly the same things to me that the main character's dad said to her. And so great content, like it made millions and millions and millions from all parts of the world. Like same thing like Black Panther, right? No one, that also was a smaller, or Crazy Rich Asians. People thought it would be just a small movie, but great content just ended up making millions. So you don't have to be this big studio, or that's the power of content. Like invest in it and it can drive immense impact.
Yeah, because a lot of if it's an influencer, company getting started with their own marketing, we think volume is the key, right? So again, how are we gonna rank higher with SEO? Just producing content in general, it has to be volume, because we see other companies, and there's an underlying message where individuals and companies, they're talking about volume. We put out, and now we use AI, and we put out 20, 30
Yeah.
videos a day on 5 different platforms. So that's the message that everybody hears. It's like volume. So quantity versus quality, right? And you kind of learn and improve along the way. But what you're saying is probably have to slow down and be more intentional, right? Intentional, think about
Exactly.
people, and really kind of create something that maybe a smaller audience. They talk about this raving fans, right? I mention that all the time. Rather than focusing on a million people, maybe let's just focus on a core 5,000, 10,000 people that we can properly serve intentionally, right?
1,000,000,000,000,000 times yes to that. That's exactly right. It's that, so many times you'll be like, I want to go viral. I'm like, why do you want to go viral? Ultimately, processing calls, even server traffic, ultimately, it all comes with a cost. If they're not the ones to buy from you, like why would you spend hundreds of thousands of euros to rank on #1 on Google, for example, if they're not going to buy from you? It's not going to move the needle. You'd rather have 10 really high quality leads versus 1,000 low quality ones, because it's just a waste. And so, yes, it's all about slowing down to really hurry up and gain traction later. It's that rather than throwing out thousands of posts, that volume, and then seeing what sticks and learning the hard way, pause, be deliberate, be strategic, talk to your customers, understand them, wait, actually, even before you talk to them, understand your own business, what's going to move the needle for you. Any organization can sometimes have multiple offerings, maybe multiple lines of business, different products, whatever it is. They may not all be worth the same to your business, right? Maybe Gen AI, so maybe you've got some like Gen AI widget or something, and it's all the buzz, it's got all the volume, but that doesn't make money for you. Then why are you promoting it, right? Promote the stuff that will make money for you. So focus on what's going to move the needle for your business, then see what your customers are talking about or asking questions. I talk to sales, like sales and marketing alignment it's not a nice to have, it's absolutely critical for long-term success. What are your prospects asking for? What are the objections they have? What are common questions they have? Who are competitors they're looking at? Right? If you understand all of this, you'll know how to position the right messaging, and then go out and look at how your competitors are addressing your audience. Not because we want to copy them, but really to understand like how you can differentiate yourself. Right? How many posts in the past few months have we seen about 10 prompts for chat GPT, 10 prompt. It's like every second person is publishing that. Like what's interesting, what's unique, how do you stand out? And so if you really understand what's going to move the needle, how do I best serve my audiences and give them something they'll want to consume, right?
Yep.
I'll give you an example. Remember, did you ever see those Blend Tech, the Will It Blend commercials, where there was a company that made like literally like a blender? Like, and you think like a kitchen blender, like that's so boring. They started doing these demos where they would blend an iPhone, they would blend neon sticks, like all these different things, and it became a thing online where like, will it blend? And then they
Oh wow.
got people wanting to watch. Yeah. So I'm like, look, you have to make content that people want to watch. And remember, you're targeting people, not algorithms, right? Why are you going to try to fool Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, Bing algorithms when their algos don't buy from you? People buy from you.
Hmm. This is so interesting because I'm thinking right now. So because if I put myself in, in everybody's shoes and think about what everybody else is doing, right? And we're talking about, LinkedIn posts, and we see people proposing, suggesting you need to do this regarding prompts, and that's the next AI software that you have to use, or anything in that nature, right? So we're just chasing the next shiny object, right? We might think, I believe, so when I'm thinking right now, I believe we might think that we're tapping into big potential, but I think it's the opposite. I think it's exactly what you're saying, just like with the blender example, right? Is going backwards and focusing on something that nobody goes to, right? So
Yeah.
because that's, I think it's the message, if everybody goes, if the crowd, if the people running, the same with in the real estate industry, we saw that 2008, before 2008, people running, buying, purchasing, and how many people went under, right? So if the crowd is going to one direction, maybe you want to stop and think about where you would like to go.
And more than even where you would want to go, it's exactly right. Where do you want to go? Like, think differently. That's right. But more so, instead of even guessing, it's like your customers are telling you what they want. Like,
Yeah.
listen to your audiences. Like, they will tell you, people will put out there. If not, they're not going to literally pull up the phone and be like, I think you should do X, because people don't know. But if you see the type of questions they're asking, if you look at reviews for yourself, like that was a great example where I once consulted for a client who had this like beautiful ocean resort in the Caribbean, right? I mean, it's hard to go wrong. You're like, it's an easy sell. And they were like, listen, we're so proud of our property. We've got 1 mile long private beach. And so they thought that that was their unique selling point, and they were all of their copy was about 1 mile long private beach. And you're like, okay, that's good, but it's the Caribbean. Every other resort has beautiful private beaches and other things. And I mean, they did well, but if we just spent, I was like, listen, let's just spend 30 minutes looking through the reviews online. So we looked at like TripAdvisor, we looked at, Google reviews, like a few other review places online. And we were trying to see like what's common themes that are popping up from the reviews.
Mm.
So many of the positive reviews were mentioning that, we love this resort because it has such a huge variety of restaurants. And so you could get different cuisines, and it was really delicious. And we never felt like we had to leave the resort, and we felt like we were eating amazing food every day. And that's different from other all-inclusive resorts. We're like, why are you not poking on that one? Like, that's a great string, that's a great thread to pull on. And so we changed it. Like, we added that. We're like, yes, we've got the 1 mile private beach, but also we've got the best, most diverse cuisine. Like, morning you can have Asian, evening you can have like the best Italian, and blah, 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 and so on. And then we saw conversion rates go up. And it took 30 minutes of looking at reviews, right? It's not as hard. Like, people sometimes think the word research means really like overwhelming. And it's not. Like, I swear, like, even if you had, let's say you had 2 hours and you could only spend 2 hours in the month, here's how I would spend the time. I would spend 1 hour talking to the best salespeople. I'd get like 4 or 5 salespeople who talk to customers all day long, right? They've got the voice of the customer. Like, how are you saying the pitch? What do you say that helps you close the sale? What are customers, like the common questions or misperceptions or objections they have? So I know I can put it in my copy. I'd spend the next 30 minutes looking through reviews, seeing what customers are saying about us and about our competitors. And then I'd spend the last 30 minutes looking at how our competitors are addressing our audiences so that we can find a way to differentiate. And in those 2 hours, you'd have given yourself a significant lift in
Yeah.
quality of content you can put out.
It definitely makes a difference. So I found it myself when, because I love just strategic thinking and kind of playing chess, right? In business just in general, because it's a lot of it's about that, right? Like what's going to be the next move and really calculating the next move. I mean, you're always going to make mistakes, but
Of course.
really thinking, and a lot of it is really data, what you're saying, right? So customer feedback, just data in general. So as boring as it is, being an owner, an employee, it is important to look at it and really evaluate it. But for the companies out there, let's say if it's a smaller company, somebody's getting started, they don't have enough reviews. They don't have enough data to base their own decisions right now. Can they go to the competitor who has identical or similar product and maybe look at their reviews and see what people are describing and try to make some changes in their own business as well?
That's a great idea, Martinez. That can certainly work well. Like, take a look at what's saying, and the reality today is most offerings sometimes between competitors are not that different, right? It's so then you can find, how do you build the case studies? How do you build some of that additional stuff? How can you spend time? Like, something that I used to do, and I did this at one of my startups when we were a marketing team of like 2 people, like me and my boss. So, right, we were so tiny, like bare boned. And so we said was, you know what? Let's just call customers. Like, we found like who's a repeat customer, who's somebody who's like referred, or like, we could go and look at our customer lifetime value and see who is it. And we just was like, can we spend 20 minutes on the phone with you? 20 minutes, send them 3 questions ahead of time, ask them, what do you like, what was your trigger to make you want to decide to work with us? Why did you choose us versus somebody else? So, now that you're working with us, like, how did we meet or not meet your expectations? And so it's just being human, right? AI is amazing. It's so powerful. Trust me, I've worked at Microsoft. I've seen firsthand the fact that, technology can give us human superpowers. It's there to empower us, but you can't afford to prioritize artificial intelligence over emotional intelligence. So what makes us human is always going to be in demand.
Mm, definitely. So driving that business success, for individuals out there, if they want to build a successful company, do you believe, because there's always been a couple of strategies to go about and have a business, and to have a business on the social media, right? Is you either out there as a brand, as a company name, and which of course there's a different way to build that. Maybe you'll encounter more challenges, or you can become a thought leader and be at the forefront of the company and be the face of the company, right? And that way you can build it. So maybe you can talk about, and obviously being a business owner, LinkedIn, again, as far as I see, is the place to go. Can you talk about some of the maybe thought leadership strategies that people can use successfully, specifically on LinkedIn?
Of course, and it's exactly as you said, Martinez, that people will follow people first and then will connect with brands second, right? Especially now, what was it the word of the year 2024 is authenticity. Like people want to get to know people. As we were saying earlier, like sometimes the offerings or the services are, there's not much difference, especially in SaaS businesses sometimes, or agencies, for example, there's not that much difference. So how do you stand out? How do you get that sort of top of mind awareness and build that memory with your audiences? Is through getting your executives and your employees to help build their brand, because then their brand will reflect well. Like one of my favorite examples comes from Rand Fishkin, right? He built Moz, or SEO Moz at the time, and now with Spark Toro, he's again out there publishing content, being the face, helping people with content. And now you think Rand, you think Moz, you think Spark Toro, right? It's so integral, and we care about Spark Toro more because Rand's made me care about him and his approach to the business, and that's
Value of the companies, huh?
so much drastically. And then the great thing is that your people can help to drastically scale up your core corporate messages. So let's say, for example, a company wants to talk about sustainability. Like they're trying to be like, okay, sustainability is such an important topic. As a brand, we want to talk about it. But sometimes it's like, yeah, every brand talks about like sustainable this, sustainable that, but maybe they're doing a big push. They'll put it out from the brand LinkedIn account. The executive, like maybe the CEO, CMO, whomever is the designated executive who will speak about sustainability, can talk about it from their point of view, that, this is what I care about, this is what I value, this is why we chose this initiative. It's more, now it's interesting. And then you could have like just the, even non-executives, just subject matter experts across the company, maybe somebody in product can talk about, here's how I changed this. And let me give you another example. I think one of the best LinkedIn posts that I had seen was from Samsung around CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, which all the sexy technology in the world. And this is a couple of years ago at this point. But so if Samsung is debuting technology at CES, the technology is going to be really like cool, and it's going to talk for itself. And they could have led with the product first, but instead what they did was they published this awesome post which said, learn about the product, people who built the product, about like how they developed and launched that product. So now instantly it became human interest. Microsoft has a great example too, where on one of their Transform blogs, they did this, or I think the Work Life blogs, they did this post where like, here's how the product managers who built our AI solutions are using the AI tools for more creativity and more efficiency in their day. It's such a great way of talking about the product without it coming across as a hard sell, but also adding that human interest, that magazine strategy. And then it has the added benefits of helping build the sort of employee branding, right? It's going to make other people want to work for a company like that if they're like, oh my gosh, they highlight their people. This is what they do. People are given this freedom. So it's such a win-win-win solution. And that's, again, it's power of good content.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So, and because I'm thinking right now while you're describing that, I'm thinking about the Apple computer, right? Because there was, when they just came up with the Apple computer, you remember they used to put like signatures inside of the case as well of the employees that used to work and of course you cannot see that, but it was in a monitor inside. They used to put the signatures on, and of course they probably were printed. I'm not sure if they hand signed them every single time, but that was there, right? So just the human touch, saying that, okay, we have built it, right? And obviously, Apple really connected to the consumers. They really connected on that human level, right? To really love the technology that people and the company builds. So it's always the human touch. right? Because we love to connect with people. So regarding that, right? So building the thought leadership. So how let's say an individual who is again getting started, like what will be practical things to do, because there's so many different things that we can do on LinkedIn, starting with article posting, video posting, there could be static images, there could be lives, anything like that. And of course there are some things that we're going to be talking about debunking some of the myths as well. I don't know, do you see that, first of all, what you've been describing, do you see now CEOs and the decision makers really now understanding that they have to be at the forefront of the companies and speaking about it themselves rather than creating static images and letting marketing team to handle it, so they go out there and speak about it in the videos? Or that's just happening right now as we speak on LinkedIn? If it's happening, again, what will be the right way? If it's articles, videos, like what will work right now at this given moment, maybe let's say even further out, let's say 6 months from now on LinkedIn?
So absolutely, yes, people are increasingly waking up to this importance. So this was a topic that was sort of, it's been a couple of years that it's been talking about, but this is literally one of the top priorities I'm hearing from marketing teams and execs across companies of all sizes and shapes across the world. So if I had to say, like, the 2024, one of the hottest jobs is going to be like thought leadership and building this thought leadership strategy at a company. And comms teams are really, really looking so hard. And yes, executives definitely should be involved. But what happens if your exec is too busy? Don't just not start the strategy. Go and find other subject matter experts, right? There's always somebody within the company that's probably active on social. Like, start with them first, have them post, empower them. But the big thing, so let's say if you're an executive or you're a comms manager and you're trying to get an executive or a subject matter expert coverage, here's what you do first. So step one would be ensure that they have a very complete profile on LinkedIn. Second would be turn on creator mode, because that gives you additional features, like you can go live, you can get invited to contribute to collaborative articles, etc. People have the option to follow you rather than just connect, because there's no limit to followers, but you can have those connections, there's a limit. So that way it's, turn that on, complete your profile, right? Make sure you've got your signature, put your, for me, I have to do this, is I put how to pronounce your name. Like, I've heard Purina, I've heard Puma, I've heard Bruno. I've heard it all, so put something in there. Simple things about us, your job, like write it in a very human way too. Put your stuff in a first person voice. Like, very often it's a tendency is like, Purna is this, Virji does this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no,
even though LinkedIn has now an AI assistant to help to create bios,
they can help you, right? Which is awesome, right? Let AI be the assistant to help you, and then you're the editor, you're the guide. Like, it can help you put things. So you complete, exactly. We've got so many cool features now. If you're running ads, there's Accelerate, which can help you create paid campaigns with the power of AI. You can got the image generator that you can add in, right? There's so much cool stuff that can elevate you. So start with that, discover who you want to follow, connect, build your connections if you don't have anything. And then the key thing is, you don't have to talk about everything. So that's another thing that's really overwhelming. Like, if I'm a CEO, I'm like, or if I'm a marketer in a company, do I suddenly become the expert on everything?
yeah.
Well, who's got time for that? You don't. It's impossible. Try to identify the 3 to 5 maximum key topic areas that you are an expert in, that you are passionate about. And why is passion important? It's because you're gonna have to write about this consistently for a long time. So this should be something that you care about and have enough information that you're not gonna get bored writing about, right? If I'm writing about leadership, for example, like, I'm really passionate about women women leaders and empowering other sort of women and underrepresented communities to grow in leadership. So that's something that I have been mentoring folks on for a long time. So for me, it's a great source of content that I can easily talk about anytime. Or content marketing, for example, right? Wake me up. What's the stuff that if they wake you up in the middle of the night and be like, talk 2 minutes about this topic, that you can, like, find those and then prioritize them based on what's important for your business. So if you think about a Venn diagram almost, You want to find that overlap, that little triangle between what you are really passionate about, what you have deep expertise and want to be known for, and then what's going to drive revenue impact for your business. And then find the overlap, and those 2 to 3 topics, if that's all you want to start with, go for it. Think about what are different things that your audiences care about. What can you say in a way that's authentic? And you don't always have to create, right? You can curate, you can share. But what's very important on LinkedIn is that you add your perspective, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, it was just an article. It's self-explanatory. I'll just post it. But that's not going to get as much engagement. What's going to get engagement is, I read this article, these things really stood out to me, and here's my reaction or my perspective on this article, and then share it. And that's going to let people know who you are. That authenticity is going to shine through. You're going to be able to build your expertise, and you want to speak to your target audience. In fact, it's a good thing if you're not getting thousands of likes or engagements on your post, because it's not designed for that. You want to reach your right audience, and that also means filtering out who's not your right audience. So that would be the next step. And third would be just create a consistent posting schedule. That doesn't mean you need to post 10 times a day, every day, because who has time for that? And more than time, like sometimes that's not sustainable, right? There's no passion that's going to come out with that. So I would say even 1 to 3 times a week, just post consistently, regularly. People, you can start to build the following and give it time. Like literally, like after 90 days of posting consistently is when you're really going to start seeing those significant effects. So it takes a little time, because so many people will come, post a lot, get tired, and then leave. But the ones who last, who are just when you're about to give up, if you can stick it out and do more, then you're going to suddenly see, like I noticed that when I cross 10,000 followers, now my followers grow so much faster now every day, or I get much more reach. I get a lot of second and third connection, commenting or engaging with my content. I started getting more.
Is it the magic number that the LinkedIn has, or is it just like people perceive you now, oh wow, Purna has 10,000 people following her, and let me engage with her a little bit more?
That was just my personal example. It's not a set magic number or anything like that, but it's just like the more people, the more your connection grows, it's going to snowball. It's the snowball effect, right? When you'll have smaller, and then as it gets bigger and bigger, now there's more people in your network. There's more people you engage with who engage with you. And then so on, you'll start to see. So yeah, if you post consistently for 90 days, like you just become known, you're expected, your audience knows when to come see you for. So that would be really good. And then just balance, like find ways that you can align with company launches, company priorities, but don't always be salesy, right? You can talk about the same thing. Like there's an awesome example from SEMrush, which is an sort of marketing tool company that most marketers use. They had some brand new launches, very cool features. So they, of course, posted it on LinkedIn, and they got a great amount of reactions. I think it was like 500-600 in a week. Then their VP of brand marketing posted it at the same time, but she posted it from her point of view, where she was like, in my 9 years at SEMrush, like this is the first one that I've ever been so excited about, and here's why. And she just went into more detail about her time at the company. And she got in a week about the same, like 600-ish engagements, but she got 83 plus comments. Like the level of dialogue and connection was huge. And here's the cool thing about commenting, right? Martina, if I comment on your post starts showing up to my network. So do you see how the reach? And so the more people that comment, the more like different networks that start to see that content too. So she got way more reach. And then, so she was the VP who posted. Then they had a marketing team leader who runs the marketing influencer program. She posted about it a week later, but she posted it more from like the individual contributor, like the daily doer point of view, which is like, oh, so many SEOs have struggled with this. And then here's, why this will help you do XYZ, like really tactical. And she got tons of engagement and posts too, because each one was reaching a different audience, right? One reached like the decision maker and exec audience, the other one reached the people in the weeds. And especially with B2B, you'd want to talk to all of them because they all influence the ultimate purchase decision. And so that's really the power of getting your employees to go out and post. In fact, I'll tell you an honest story. Like when my book, came out and I was doing some promotion, like my VP and I had a one-on-one, and she was like, Purna, it's so good for us that you published the book. And I was like, really? That's so nice of my like vice president at LinkedIn to come and tell me, like, we're so happy for you because thank you. You make us look good. And that's the kind of attitude that I wish more companies would think about it, because there's so often people are like, well, I don't want to invest in my employees because if they build their brand, then they'll just leave. I'm like, that's not the case. Like, invest in your people. They're your best assets.
Oh yeah.
And do that. So be like my VP, Mel, who is incredible.
Yeah, because I know, because there's somebody, a successful business owner, was also asked about their employees and training, and a journalist asked them, and she said that a journalist basically said, like, why do you invest in your people so much and spend the time and effort and like capital and time, and are you not afraid that they're going to leave to your competitor and take all that knowledge and time that you invested in them and just go to another company? I thought, I'm not afraid about them leaving. I'm afraid about not training them and they stay in my company, right?
I love that.
So that's the real fear, that you're not going to train your people and they're going to stay, because that will reflect on your company. I mean, so much, right? Because the people are leading your company, right? They're the engine. But there's so much unpack here, Purna, that regarding content and posting that specifically again for business owners out there, because it seems like again on LinkedIn, just with your example with the Semrush company, employees, team members, they have to be on LinkedIn as a person representing the company again. And I see these posts from various of companies that are doing super well, but they're all individual posts, right? Company posts do only so much, right? If they're reposted, recreated by those individuals. So, but for companies, if it's a smaller company, maybe it's okay for them they can afford time and lost time or money if they maybe not investing money, maybe they just investing more time creating posts and making mistakes and whatnot. But for the bigger companies, going out there and really testing the waters, if it's gonna work, because finding this again content, like what I'm gonna be talking about, if you say, a couple of things, because those maybe medium, bigger size companies, they're looking at the instant return, like revenue, what that post is gonna generate, right? That's again, it becomes like I spoke about this in a previous episode, like it becomes like a target. It's so funny that we talk about in the marketing, like target audience, like we're just targeting everybody, we're just shooting people pretty much right on online, which is, I don't know if that's the healthy approach of approaching this, but that's how corporations think. We need to target people. So, and if they put the content out, and if it's not the right content, because if again it's going to be a very long question, but individuals either choose and follow what's trending because they know, again, that's where the potential is for them to create more revenue, attract more attention, and they're just going to duplicate for whoever's doing whatever, and that's not going to be authentic. Or if it's going the authentic route that we talked about, so not leading the people talking about the AI and prompts, going the other way, slowing down and thinking about that, it might cost them revenue and time, which again, companies might not afford, because those individuals, they're going to be in charge. Maybe they're afraid of losing their job, getting in a bad situation from their employers and saying that, look, you have not created the result that we were expecting. So do you see a challenge there by just being authentic and still driving revenue with a kind of medium, bigger size companies?
I think it's all about setting the right expectations. And that's one of the worst things that the digital marketing has trained us on, which is like, oh, Google Analytics will tell me like 24-hour data, like, whatever happened yesterday, I can see it immediately. And so that way, I'm gonna also, let me put it this way. Okay, Martinez, if you had to guess, like, or I'm just gonna ask people to guess hypothetically, like, what do you think is the average sales cycle time for a B2B campaign? A few months, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yep, so 3 to 6 months on average in the good days. Now it's getting longer. Now it's like 9 to 12 months, maybe, right? On average. But then at LinkedIn, we did this research poll where we asked marketers that when you launch a new campaign, like how many of you will review results 6+ months later? 4% of people said they would check results after 6 months. We asked people how many of you check results in the first 2 weeks itself? 75+% of people.
Yeah.
So then you were like, wait, what is the logic here? You yourself know that in B2B, the average sales cycle is several months long. Why are you looking in the first 2 weeks to see results? It's like you're judging the fish for its ability to climb the tree. And so it's like, just set reasonable expectations that, okay, let's go back to Rand as an example, right? I'm going to watch 2 videos of Rand. Spark Tour is going to be in my mind right now. I may not have the need, or I may not have budget at the moment to purchase another tool, but you can bet that hearing about Rand, hearing about Spark Toro, it's going to stick in my head. And so when I'm ready to buy, who am I going to pick, right? So it's a long-term play. Everything is not lead generation. Everything is not, demand generation. It's not going to move the needle. You want to think, but everything is step by step. You want to try to build, I'm going to think about buying a Happy Meal and a burger. You're going to want to have a drink. What's the drink? Coca-Cola, right? You're going to think about this. If you need a tissue, you're like, oh, can I have a Kleenex? Right? It's built that recognition in your head. You're gonna photo, if you to do it. I used to work for Bing. I used to feel I'm like, people would be like, Google that. I'm like, no, let's Bing it, right? So
Yeah. Okay, Purna, do you mind if I ask you? Because
yeah.
before I lose my thought here, jab, 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 right hook. Gary V and many others marketers were talking about this. That you kind of provide value, and then sell, right? Right. So, which again, for the companies out there, if we're talking about the revenue, because they treat it, once again, I'm coming back to this same idea that I was talking about targeting. So it's for them, it's just right hook, right hook, right hook, right, which is a mistake. So how much of a jobbing they should be doing, like in terms of just providing just pure value for people? Is there a percentage or a number, or what's your idea?
That's a great question. And who Avinash Kaushik used to have a really good answer to that. Avinash Kaushik used to be at Google. He's author, like amazing analyst person. He would say, and this is several years ago, and I will caveat my answer by everyone's audience is different. Your mileage may vary, but Avinash used to say, I think he was like 40% help, educate, entertain something, 40% something else, and like 10% sell. So I remember like 10% selling used to be there. So if you extrapolate and try to do that, it's like you can sell, it's okay to pitch your products, but think about how to pitch them. Like if I'm always coming to you like, Martinez, buy my book. Martinez, did you buy my book? Did I tell you how good my book is? You're going to be like, unfollow. But if I am sharing general knowledge, going out there, people have to get to know you, they have to like you, they have to trust you, and then they'll buy from you. So work those steps: know, like, trust, buy.
Got it. Yeah. So for people, again, what you talked about before, that there's not enough time. Again, if it's a newer company, even if a bigger company, maybe they're just too busy with day-to-day operations, they have no time, close to zero time to spend creating strategy, marketing strategy ideas, kind of whatever prompts, whatever that might be, a post, a video. What about using Chat GPT, any of those videos like Synthesia or many others? Do you think that's going to be, and how that is going to be taking place on LinkedIn? Because I currently probably see that happening right now as we speak, that we see that AI avatars are being created, and people now creating the thought leaders as of a kind of AI form of themselves. So how do you see this being shaped right now? If it's written posts by chat, because I can go and right now and find a post that maybe has 500 again likes, engagement, copy that, put it in a chat, and put my own spin in it, and say I want to talk about this, copy this, duplicate in the same way that will be appealing for people to read on LinkedIn, blah blah blah, whatever the prompt is, duplicates. How do you see that now taking place? And again, those AI avatars being used today?
So I would say that, and I'm not going to make this specific about LinkedIn, it's just about in general.
Yeah.
And I think what Danny Sullivan from Google, actually, I saw a post of him recently where he was saying about Google's point. He's like, Google doesn't care how your content is created, where it's from. It's just, is it high value? Is it responding to your audience? And ultimately, I think if I had to share this message, and actually I wrote this in my book too, is that there's no point trying to game algorithms. In fact, create for humans. They're the ones that buy, but algorithms are shaped by humans and human behavior. Whether I'm LinkedIn, whether I'm Bing, whether I'm Google, Facebook, Pinterest, whatever, how do I make money? I make money if I have a lot of people coming to my platform, right? The more user base I have, the more they do that. And what will make people come back? Good quality content. If I'm not enjoying the content, like why would I go to XYZ platform? I should find value there. And so they're very vested in ensuring that whatever is there is offering value to their audience. And so if you can think about creating content that audiences really value, then whether you are a Fortune 50 company or you're like the brand new startup that's a one person solopreneur, great content is going to be the big equalizer because it's going to get engagement. And then if people are reacting and enjoying the content, the algos are going to reward that content with much more reach because they're seeing that people like it and find value in it. Like you'll notice it. If it's a high value post, it's going to get a lot of engagement. You're going to see it everywhere. And so try to think about it in that way. At the end of the day, it's simple. It may not be easy to do, but it is simple, which is create to add value for the human. If AI is going to help you come up with, creativity and the likes that you could never achieve before, use it. If you're going to take a wrong shortcut and just be like, I'm going to create like 50 blog posts on the single word answer so I can game my algo and rank higher, it may work short term, but we're never going to see it work long term, are we? Like time and time again, we've seen like the algorithms always strike back.
Mm. So again, the question now also, because if we're speaking about different platforms also on the same thought that if an individual is willing, like is looking to create a content that would get eyeballs, right? And let's say if it's a personal content, right? Maybe again going on LinkedIn or going only on YouTube, that's not their strategy, right? They're trying to maximize their effort. That means they want to go on different platforms, right? They want to utilize them all, right? They say they have time available for that. Different platforms have different algorithms, prefer different things, and some of those things maybe doesn't favor whatever thoughts, ideas. Maybe it's provocative that you, let's say, put out on YouTube is not going to work on LinkedIn because it's a different community, different vibe, different algorithm, and people favor different things. So how can you still put out the same message in a different way, put a different spin that would be, you know, kind of available to use for all the other platforms out there? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, and there's two thoughts. Like one, you don't have to be active and invest time for every single platform because it doesn't make sense. Like go where your audiences are and go where they would be most receptive to your message. I may, for example, like my Instagram is exclusively for like personal stuff, like me and my family. Like I have a personal Instagram that's just for my family. Like that's what I use it for. I don't use it for anything work, anything building.
I
And
see.
so if
I
people
see.
were marketing to me there, I'm like, I don't want to think about work. I don't want to think about anything. Like I'm just there to look at, pictures of my friends and my friends' babies and like my nephew and like their dogs. And, like that's what I care about or recipes, right? But I'm really receptive to stuff on LinkedIn. That's where, if you're trying to give me a message, I'll find it there. So to go back to your question about time being limited as well, constraints can help you find more creativity. And it's what you prioritize. Time, everyone has the same 24 hours. We all have competing demands. Like no one's sitting there being like, I've got all this time in the world. It's what you prioritize. You can spend 2 hours in a month and create 4 or 5 posts that you can put out for the month, right? Can you find 2 hours? I bet everyone can find 2 hours if they want the returns to do that, right? There's always workarounds. Like think about it. And if you understand your audience, you know what they think, your copy like almost writes itself. Like so often, like sometimes I'll have a meeting with one of my mentees. Like I had a meeting with my mentee the other day and she was like, how do I make my one-on-ones with my manager more impactful? I gave her that advice. I'm like, that's actually more people could benefit from that advice. I posted it on LinkedIn and it got tons of engagement. So day-to-day stuff that's happening, posted. And of course, it aligned into one of my content sort of pillars, which is talking about like leadership and so on, right? That's what I'm interested in. So one, and then two, which platform? Find the platform that works well for you. You can have e-presence, you can block your name, but one of my friends, Lexi Mills, had quoted this, and it's in my book now too, where she was like, Purna, if I was a toe fungus cream company, like you wouldn't expect me to have the world's most beautiful Instagram or TikTok, like a visual medium, because no one wants to see pictures of toe fungus cream, but just to have a presence there, like block your name and you can use it to guide people to YouTube, LinkedIn, like wherever you are, right? So just think about it, have a presence, maybe be active on one or two platforms, like what, you know, 1, 2, 3, 5, like whatever owned and up, you know, whatever channels you want to in your mix. Go deep on a few based on your time. If you've got more time, do a couple. If you've got less time, pick one. Like for me, when I was going to promote my book, and I'll use my, so I'm taking off my employee hat. I'm taking on my sort of non-employee hat. I had a book come out at the end of July. And I was like, okay, I've got to promote it, but I also have a very demanding full-time job. I work with a global team. Like, there's no time. Like, how do I do it? I'm like, I'm just going to focus on LinkedIn. And it was the best decision I ever made because I built such, you know, so many new friends. I had such amazing conversations. I got to meet you, Martinez, as a result of LinkedIn. And, you know, my publisher was like, Purna, your book's like selling amazingly well. She's like, what you've sold in less than 6 months is more than what we would consider successful in a year. And I'm like, I've won awards. It's all thanks to the power of really investing in a single platform. And honestly, I'm not saying this because I'm an employee of LinkedIn, but this platform is so powerful. It's such a, I'm so proud that I get to work at LinkedIn as well because I really love it as a person.
Yeah, yeah. Likewise, same. I've seen a lot of success again through LinkedIn. For example, I can give you a very simple use case. We have organized an event for in a different industry, in the space industry. I was working with a company a couple of years back, and a lot of it, like we had, it wasn't a person event, so we had around 600-700 people over a period of 3 days from 18 different countries, and probably 90+% of success that we had, I mean, the people, the interactions, like it is because of LinkedIn.
Yeah,
So everything
so
happened.
powerful.
If there was no LinkedIn, I don't know how we couldn't found those people, had conversations with them, put them in the same room, and have all the attendees. I mean, it was crazy. So and that's again, that's my, you know, just take on LinkedIn. I mean, there's real power to it. Again, where mistakes are happening, because a lot of individuals, so again, if they're in business, they're let's say salespeople, they come into LinkedIn for lead generation, right, to potentially, you know, make sales. Where do you see people making mistakes there? Because, you know, we see these creepy messages that sometimes, you know, I hope it finds you well. You know, it's good to connect with you, Martinez. I hope it finds you well. Have you checked this? Right? And we just connected like a second ago, right? I'm just connected. They invited. I'm connected, and next second, like literally in 5 seconds, I'm receiving this message. So,
I know.
how do you approach this? What would you advise to people in terms of do and don't do?
So what I would honestly say is that, come on, no one reacts to those messages. And sometimes people are under pressure, you know, it's, let me just do it. Maybe it'll close. It's, you want to go out with number. Again, it's the quantity versus quality, isn't it? That's that same argument. So what I would say is if you want to increase your odds of getting the cold call and getting the yes or getting that phone call or response, build your brand, right? If I've engaged with you, if I've seen your content, like there was, so he just left, but one of my favorite sellers at LinkedIn to follow was Mark Tracy, Treacy, like follow him. Amazing content, right? I love all his posts. I find there's so much value. And if I didn't know Mark, but if Mark now pinged me in my inbox, because I had seen his content, because I had found value in it, I'm going to be like, I'll take the call, right? Whether I need that or not. So think about that. It's like invest a little bit of time. Like, so we think that we want to be scrappy and that just means post a lot and see what works and figure it out later. But you're wasting time and money by doing that. Pause. Even if you take 2 weeks and put nothing out, even if you take 2 months and put nothing out, but you do all this due diligence, it's still so worth it, because then once you start executing, you can just hit the ground running. Your odds of success are so much higher. So literally, I think if I had to give people, regardless of what you are, personal, like build your personal brand on LinkedIn. It's an amazing channel. It's an amazing platform. It can do so well. You'll get so much out of it. More than that, creative, the joy of creating, right? Sometimes as marketers, there's so much pressure that we forget that marketing is fun and there's joy and passion in it. And so, like for me, I find it as a creative outlet. I'll do a video like a 2 or 3 minute video every single week on LinkedIn, and it's so much fun. I love doing it. I get awesome conversations, like people I'll meet in person will mention it and spark dialogue, right? If I'm networking now, like I'm quite introverted, like I love people, I love marketing, I'll talk about it, but I'm deeply introverted as well. And so networking is always kind of like, oh, so uncomfortable, but force myself. And now like people just come up to me and be like, Purna, like, yes, hello. And then we start chatting and the ice breaks. So do that with sales, like stop the whole throwing shit out there, because maybe it worked a few years ago, but I would argue like, what's that doing for the company brand? Right? If I'm going to be, there's companies that I'm like, I will never buy from them because I hate their ads. And I, as a principal, I, I'm like, I will not buy from
The
them.
name, yeah, really
Yeah.
damaging. Could be a good product, could be a good company, but because of that message, because we already had not the first message that I'm getting like that. I've been receiving these messages and same as you years before,
Yeah.
right? So and they left such a bad taste that we don't even spend the time to take a look at the next message that we received.
Yeah, exactly. It's like just delete now. Or then if they've added me and then they instantly just think that they're like pitching. And I don't blame people. This is a very hard time in the economy. Like this isn't judging, but I mean, I would say like the odds of me, like we're all strapped for time. Like we're all being asked to do more with less, right? Time, attention is such a premium for people that it's just go give a little value, build a little bit of a reputation, and then make me want to say yes, right? Real, make it more of a pull, even if you're pushing, especially if you are like a BDR, okay, and you have to go out and like get new business. Like the best thing you can do for yourself is to be active on social media and have some that kind of, talk about case studies, talk about, how you've helped people, or who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for,
Exactly.
what
So,
you share.
but that's very difficult these days, right? Because again, with the cancel culture and the way society sometimes perceives things, and not a lot of people. And I think that's the challenge when we're describing this, that CEOs and just the decision makers in a company, they have to go there in front of the companies and represent that and speak their mind. Which again, that's I think in the back of their mind, that's where the procrastination kicks in, and that thought that, oh my God, we're gonna get canceled, I'm gonna say something bad, because we as marketers, yes, we're creative people, so we should put our creativity out there at the forefront and be like, okay, this is my idea, this is my thought, this is what I do, and this is my position in the marketplace, right? But we're afraid. I think we're getting to the point of just being canceled, being perceived in a wrong way by the society, by people, right? So that I think a lot of individuals are just afraid to express themselves.
Think about your content calendar. Think about what's your next for the next 6 months out. Okay, for example, you know what your priority topics are for the next 6 months out. Who could be the right people in your company to talk about some of it? Like who's your, maybe your product or your technical expert? Who's your sustainability like passion person about it, your CEO, what's their point of view? They can try to find different people and like create a little list on like, okay, Martinas likes to talk about XYZ, Purna likes to talk about XYZ, and then fit people into your existing content strategy and be like, okay, we as a company are doing this whole sustainability event that we're doing. So this person, we're going to tap on you to come in and add your point of view. Like you can make it easy. Let it come from one central source that gives marketing, again, just way more importance. Like we're not the blog post creators in this corner who operate magically. It's like we are important part of the company, and then build on each other's work and each other's goals. Like if you know what the PR team is going to push, as marketers, we should be working hand in hand. So it's not hard. It just takes a little bit of work up front to set up these motions. But once they're set up, it's a well-oiled machine. So if I had to leave people on like one last note as we wrap, is put in the work up front to make sure that everything you're doing is very intentional, very strategic, and very deliberate. If you want a roadmap, it's in my book.
Thank you again for coming on the show. Pleasure to see you finally and to talk with you. And I look forward to our next chat.
Thank you for having me. So excited for our next chat, Martinez. Thank you so much. Bye.